As I said on Saturday, we condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either.
All right, the president doubling down on his comments from Saturday, saying both sides are to blame for the deadly weekend events in Charlottesville, sparking this back and forth between Charles Krauthammer and Laura Ingraham on Special Report.
To critique what he did today on the grounds that it distracts from the agenda or was a tactical mistake, I believe is a cop-out. He reverted back to where he was on Saturday and made it very clear that what he read on Sunday, was it Monday? 2 days later,
Monday,
was a hostage tape.
I resent that you just said it was a cop-out, what I said on this set. To critique what he did today is what we were asked to do on the show tonight. We have to be honest about the evil of racism and also honest about the evil of a far left that is trying to tear down both history and intimidate free speech in the country. That is not defending neo-Nazis, it's not defending white supremacists, it's stating a fact about Antifa.
I never said he was defending neo-Nazis.
I think his statement yesterday was clear and strong, and I think it was compassionate. I think he should have said it on Saturday. I have no idea why he didn't.
You said you have no idea why he didn't say it on Saturday? I'll tell you why he didn't say it on Saturday, which he made plain today. Because that's not what's in his heart.
You can read a heart. Wow, you really are a PhD.
All right, Brad Blakeman, former Deputy Assistant to President George W. Bush, and political commentator Ben Kissel, host of the last podcast of The Left. Okay, gentlemen, a little awkward there between a couple of big names on the conservative right. But, Brad, they wouldn't even be having this awkward debate had he not taken those questions yesterday. He was supposed to be talking about infrastructure.
That's right. And look, he did take the bait because they know that the press puts out the chum, and he takes the bait every time. If he was just a little bit more disciplined, his Saturday statement, his initial statement was fine. And then he spoke again on Monday, and he clarified his prior statement. Why? Because he had more facts about what was going on the ground and what transpired there. The president should have stood by his statement. End of story. Not entertain questions and talked about infrastructure. He chose to talk about Charlottesville. He made that decision.
Yeah, and Ben, the left has got to love that. They know he's going to take the bait because he feels personally challenged and offended by the fact that he laid this out. He clarified on Monday, and then yesterday it reignites.
I honestly don't think the left or the right like this. I think this is really traumatic right now.
You don't think the left
for the
likes
American
this?
people as a whole? Yeah, bipartisan. I believe this is a very serious issue. And I just want to say the name Heather Heyer, a name that's not been mentioned nearly enough, a victim during these attacks in Charlottesville, a woman trying to exercise.
Who lost lives.
Sure, the police, exactly, the 2 officers that lost their lives. A victim trying to exercise her First Amendment right, mowed down by a domestic terrorist. I think what's happening right now is there is violence on the left, there is violence on the right, but the violence on Saturday was instigated by the right, and we have to take that as an isolated incident where the right needs to have ownership over that. The Unite the Right rally was the reason that Antifa showed up. They were the major instigators for the violence, and I think that the president really misspoke when he said that there were blame on both sides regarding Saturday's events.
Okay, but it is accurate to say there were reporters from the New York Times and somebody associated with the ACLU who were tweeting or putting out statements that they did see violence from the left, not equating these groups and what they're about, but saying that there were violent people on both sides. Is it fair to say that?
There was violence on both sides, and there's been a lot of violence in this country, and that's why we have to heal. And that's why what happened with Donald Trump on Saturday, what happened yesterday, is damaging to the country. And it shouldn't be lost on anyone that we have millions of Americans who believe that we have a Nazi sympathizer in the White House. I mean, this is very bad stuff.
We do not have a Nazi
I'm just saying that is what millions of people believe.
No, they do not believe
that.
They don't believe that, and that's the point. Is I wouldn't take the reporting that we're seeing, the outrageous reporting and accusations against our president as fact, or that there are people out there by the millions who believe that. I don't believe that. And I believe that the president in his heart believes that the American people are united against all acts of violence and domestic terrorism. That's what I believe.
That's fine that you believe that. There are still many people, as we've seen on this network, who are openly crying because of what's happened and because of the rhetoric coming from this White House. It should be very easy for the President of the United States to stand up to white nationalists, to stand up to Nazis.
He did. He did.
But then he also sort of had this caveat of but the other side as well. It's this but them world where, yes, they might be wrong on the right, but hey, look over here on the left. Both are wrong, and we need to acknowledge that.
Both were wrong. They're the left and the right fringes are damaging to our country.
I agree with that.
And the vast majority of Americans do not believe or identify with either side.
I agree with that.
We are good and decent people, and the president right now, I think, would help to unite the country and be more like Abe Lincoln instead of Roy Cohn. Being defensive and being combative is not what we need from our president at this time.
That's something that Krauthammer brought up as well last night. He said, listen, there have been terrible things. There have been Band-Aids along the way or progress along the way with, healing the wounds of the Civil War, eventually passing civil rights laws and things that have been, steps in the right direction. And over the last 50 or 60 years, he said, these younger generations have tried to heal those wounds and be a post-racist, racial kind of generation. But he said, this shows you that we're still a long way from healing those wounds. They were ripped open this weekend.
They were, and you wonder, Donald Trump is at 34% approval ratings in recent polls. You wonder if he is just horrified of giving up this very bizarre base that he was able to cobble together in 202016, and if he just feels as if he needs these fringe groups in order to maintain any level.
No, wait a second. The base who was attracted to Donald Trump is not the people that we've seen in Charlottesville. It's not. What we had in Charlottesville is a super minority of fringe people. It doesn't represent the majority of Americans.
We got to leave it there because we're out of time, but I think it's important that the people who are his base, the millions of people who voted for him, do not want to be lumped in with these people. They find that very offensive.
Exactly. The people in Wisconsin and my home state who voted for him did not vote for him because he's a white nationalist.
Exactly. All right, gentlemen, you did have some points of agreement. We thank you very much for the conversation. Bill, back to you.